Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support, and while you're at it, make sure you click the bell symbol in YouTube so they notify you every time a new episode goes live of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every single year? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in the storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like Mike and Lansdale, then check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget, we have loyalty rewards. $15 a month contributors get to co-host an episode of one of our live shows. $7.50 a month per contributors get entered into a drawing to do so as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. SmackDown's about to go off the air. Another night of incredibly frustrating WWE booking. We'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to be taking questions, comments, anything you want to touch on through the whatever chat function you have in your streaming service. Put your comments in there. If you'd like, use Spreaker.com to stream the podcast, and you'll have a direct connection right to my screen so we can get your comments right into the show. You want to send us a text for something in a future episode? Text us at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line 267-642-1160. Great place to give us your questions, your comments. Whatever you do, make sure you give us your name so we can give you credit for your questions on the show. We'll try to get to as many as we can in a future episode. Don't forget, if you are new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, go to our homepage at frowrestling.com. You can preview all the topics coming to the show. Great way to come up with some of those ideas for the Sound Off line. So, before we get going with any of the WWE stuff from tonight, let's go backtrack a couple days here, because I gotta address something that's been going on for 3 days now, and that's the reaction to Double or Nothing. Now listen, I'm with most of the people who tune into this broadcast. I think that for a diehard wrestling fan, that was an incredible show, a great way to kickstart a new company. It's exactly what the wrestling world needs right now. They did a great job. Every match was seamless. Every match had a story. Every match had something intriguing about it, whether it was high-flying action or bruising, bloody bloodbaths like Cody and Dustin, or if it was the technical stuff that you saw in the tag team match with the Lucha Brothers going against the Young Bucks. Whatever it was, whatever your flavor is in the world of pro wrestling, heck, even the Battle Royal was given more time than a conventional Battle Royal, which was good. You got to see a lot of people showcase their talent in unique ways. I love the show as much as anybody. Don't, by in any way, get me wrong. It was an incredible show. But here's the deal. I'm having a tough time when I turn on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or any of the social media outlets, and I see people talking about the downfall of WWE, or this is the beginning of the end for WWE, or that All Elite Wrestling is going to tear a WWE apart, from the inside out. No, this is all nonsense. You got to follow me on this, because I know there's people who want me to suspend my disbelief. Well, I ask you to do the same. Suspend your disbelief for a moment. Let's just talk some simple realities. If you're someone like you, yourself, myself, we watch every minute of wrestling that is out there in the world that we can get our hands on. We watch New Japan on Access Television. We watch Impact Wrestling on Pursuit Network. We watch Ring of Honor. We watch Lucha Underground whenever it happens to be on. We watch SmackDown. We watch Raw. We watch the main event, NXT, NXT UK. We go back and rewatch crap from the 1970s, 80s, 60s, 90s, 2000s, Attitude Era, Monday Night Wars, you name it, we watch it. ECW, World Class, AWA, you name it, we watch it. We even go back and watch stuff like All Japan Pro Wrestling, or this past week when I was watching the Dark Side of the Ring documentary by Viceland. We find things to watch because that's what diehard wrestling fans do. And for people like us, this was the perfect show. Okay? So that's me giving them their kudos. But here's the truth. They drew 200,000 pay-per-view buys. Let's put that in some comparison here. What people have to understand, and I've said this in different ways before, WWE does not care about you and I. They don't care about us diehard fans. That's not what they're out in business for. Let's face it, the diehard fans are about 1 million people. The same 1 million who roughly saw All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing show. The biggest percentage of WWE's audience is the other 4 million people a week. Follow me on the 4 million. The lowest Raw in history was this year was 2.12 million people. So the smallest SmackDown, 1.8 million people. You combine that with the viewership of the main event, NXT, NXT UK, and all their other programming, whether it's Total Divas, Total Bellas, Ms. and Mrs., all those shows put together. And you're talking about roughly 5 to 6 million people a week tuning into WWE programming. Now, granted, the same people who tune in Monday night are probably the same people who tune in Tuesday night, but that's irrelevant. When it comes to the ratings, and it comes to making money, and it comes to attracting advertisers, they draw 5 to 6 million people per week across all platforms. All Elite Wrestling's 200,000 pay-per-view buys, combined with 20 whatever thousand people were in the stadium, are a drop in a well to the WWE universe. You gotta understand something. WrestleMania did 1 million buys. 1 million. WrestleMania, way back in the day, WrestleMania 1 had more buys than this did. Okay? So I'm not knocking this show. What I'm telling you is, people like you and I, we love this stuff. So All Elite Wrestling is a godsend for us. We've wanted this for so long. A really great wrestling company, not a sports entertainment company, a wrestling company, a company that gives us the in-ring action that we crave, that we desire, that we've been waiting for so long, that's been missing really since the Monday Night Wars went out of business. Yes, you had Ring of Honor every once in a while, had something great, or you had Impact Wrestling when they had the AJ Styles era and Samoa Joe and things like that. Every once in a while, we'll put on a great match, but I'm talking about week in and week out, every single show putting on a killer performance. Now, here's the thing. All Elite Wrestling had 6 months to put this together. They've had all this time to carefully, design every match, figure out who's going to win what spots they were going to do. And you can't tell me they didn't know certain people who were going to be coming in. And you know darn well they knew that they had a good shot at Moxley. Even if he didn't sign till this week, they knew they had a good shot at him because of the insane amount of money that Tony Khan was offering. So the reality is you start booking around that. But even with all that time to plan, last week they had to change course because Pac pulled out of their show. Okay, one of the premier matches of the show, Pac pulls out of. So even with all that time to prepare, they still had to do damage control at the last minute. Now, it came off well. Cody and Dustin was an incredible emotional match. I love it. It's one that I will always cherish. I thought the Jericho-Omega match kind of fell a little bit flat, comparatively speaking, to their first match. But it is what it is. It still delivered what it needed to. The Dean Ambrose appearance was fantastic. The Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks, for me, was a tag team match of the year candidate. It really was a great match. Even the Sammy Guevara match was incredible. Okay? So I'm not knocking the quality of the in-ring performance, but you got to understand something. Back in February, an article was put out that WWE was concerned about Total Divas because the Bellas were leaving, and Total Bellas only drew 400,000 homes. Only drew 400,000 homes. I want you to understand that they only drew double the pay-per-view audience of All Elite Wrestling. You know what I'm saying? All Elite Wrestling is a great thing, and it's going to grow. And I'm sure they're going to get some mainstream attention because Tony Khan won't accept less. And if they catch fire like WCW did, keep in mind, for those who think that All Elite Wrestling has no shot at being a premier company, WCW was in the dumper, losing money, and Ted Turner didn't know what to do with himself until Eric Bischoff came along, okay? And then they rose like a phoenix. You can do that if you have the right marketing, you have the right strategies, you put out the right programming. In 2019, I'm more expecting AEW to produce some really great stuff. So I think they could easily have a large footprint on the wrestling audience, but they're not gearing themselves towards the largest percentage of WWE's fan base, the kids. They've already announced they're a TV 14 rating show. That tells you right off the bat. It's like they're going to do the Nitro angle, and WWE is going to do the 90s Raw angle. That's really what it boils down to. And we'll see where it goes over time. But the reality is, you have to appeal to a larger audience, and right now, they're building their core. And that's a good thing. Look, they don't need to compete with WWE. I'm just having a tough time with people online who think they already are competing with WWE. Some people put out there that they have the best wrestling show. We don't know. What we know is what they can do with 6 months of planning. All In had 6 months of planning as well. What we don't know yet is how good are they going to be booking week to week to week to week, every single Tuesday? What are they going to do the next time a talent decides they're not going to be a part of the program? What are they going to do the next time someone gets injured and their talent pool might start to get a little thin? Are they going to build people appropriately so they have somebody else that can plug into those slots when somebody gets hurt? What are they going to do with their different divisions? Tag team division. A tag team division, if they're going to cultivate one the way they seem to be doing the women's division, then you got to have multiple tag teams. Right now they've got like 3, maybe 4, if you want to count some of the other teams. So they don't have the deep enough roster that they could sustain multiple injuries. WWE, you know, we see this every year. They lose 5, 6, 7 talents a year. Right now, the reason Luke Harper isn't on TV is because he got hurt again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and now they don't want to put him back on television because he got hurt all the time. Eric Rowan's gotten hurt a million times. Daniel Bryan missed significant time with injuries. AJ Styles is on the shelf right now. He's hurt with a AC joint sprain. Like, all these injuries creep up in WWE because of their schedule. Now, I understand they have a lighter schedule at AEW, but that doesn't mean people aren't going to get hurt. Okay, even the Lucha Brothers got hurt at Double or Nothing, and now an independent company had to cancel their entire show because they're not going to be able to appear. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on this. I want to temper my excitement for All Elite Wrestling, not for myself. I'm perfectly fine being, raving lunatic Mark for All Elite Wrestling. I think it's a fantastic thing for the wrestling world. But when it comes to the mass audience, they're not a blip on a WWE radar. They really aren't. Yes, there was, there's references at the Hall of Fame and things like that, but that doesn't mean anything. When Triple H gave the comment of a pissant company, he was accurate. Yes, this week they came out and said, oh, we're a $1 billion corporation. No, you're a smaller corporation backed by a billionaire. There's a difference between the two. Okay? Because WWE is a $1 billion corporation and there's a billionaire owner. See, that's 2 billionaires, not 1. That's a difference, okay? And they don't have the kind of distribution, licensing, merchandising, movie studio, music program, all that stuff. They don't have that. A training center in 2 different places around the world with plans to build 3 or 4 more. Okay, so they're not a threat to anything yet. Will they be? Maybe. But not ever to taking them out of business. The only thing that'll put WWE out of business is if they fail themselves. And let's face it, as much as you and I, the diehard fans, can't stand half of what WWE does anymore, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Because too many little kids love it. So they have louder voices than we do because they're the ones who are buying the action figures, the t-shirts, the wristbands of John Cena every time he changes to a different color, the Seth Rollins pants and the replica belts and the tiny size for your thumb all the way up to the Uber Deluxe editions that cost $1,500. They're the ones doing that. So they are the ones driving WWE, not you and I. We're the diehards. We're the ones who are waiting for Lucha Underground to have season 5. Most WWE fans don't even know what Lucha Underground is. So, now that we're done with our Double or Nothing reactions, there's other stuff in the news this week. Speaking of All Elite Wrestling, because it's not just about Double or Nothing. Sami Zayn name drops him last night on Raw. Apparently, there's discussion about whether that was scripted or not. Now, the latest I've heard is Brian Alvarez saying that the understanding is that Sami Zayn has been given some creative freedom with what he says out on the mic, and it may not have been, everybody else's first choice for him to mention AEW, but that he's not going to get a lot of heat for it because he's been given the go-ahead to do that, to improvise on the fly. That's a good thing. That makes wrestling feel less scripted and make it feel more authentic. So I'm happy he did that, but you should see in the social media scoring, All Elite Wrestling searches online skyrocketed the minute that Sami Zayn mentioned them. So a lot of WWE fans, those 4 or 5 million people, got to hear it. Now, they took it off and edited it out of their YouTube channel, but I still think it's incredible that he did that. And I think, you know what, that's what you should want. If you're WWE, you should actually want the competition. I know Vince Russo's in the news today claiming that the 2 were in bed together, that they're purposely doing this. So they're playing us all for fools. I don't buy that. I really don't. But even if that were true, controversy creates cash, and we need competition to drive creativity. And that's what All Elite Wrestling is going to do. Speaking of All Elite Wrestling, Joey Ryan turns down the AEW deal. We've been wondering what he's going to do. This Thursday, he's going to announce his plans. People now suspect he'll go to WWE, do the thing in NXT, become a trainer, and maybe get some time on the main roster. I think he's a big enough name that enough people probably have at least heard mention of him, whether it's because of Impact, Lucha Underground, or the crazy insanity that goes on in the independents, or even memes online of him with his crotch grab of doom. He's going to have a big enough name that he could go to the main roster, and Lord knows what he could do there. But we'll have to wait and see. But the word is, this Thursday is when he makes his big announcement. Road Dogg in the news this week. He apparently is now full-time with NXT. That's a great contrast from what he was doing. NXT run by Triple H. He has a lot more creative freedom. He can put some really cool stuff together. Whereas on SmackDown, Vince kept changing everything. Now, word is that Paul Heyman is on the short list to take over the creative side of SmackDown. The problem is it doesn't matter who you put in charge of Raw, SmackDown, or any program if Vince is going to come in and screw everything up. I know the guy's a genius. He's delivered so much over the years, but he's lost his touch. It's time for Vince to let people who are in tune with today's fans make some of the decisions, and right now he's not doing that. So I'll have to wait and see how this turns out. Tony Khan, speaking of involvement, he was involved heavily at Double or Nothing. He was doing timing in the back, a part of the production crew, doing things that other WWE talents have been very clear take years to figure out how to do. Tony Khan was jumping in right away and being a part of the process. It's great to see that he was involved and he kept himself off camera. We don't need every owner of a company to be an on-screen talent, and I'm glad he wasn't a part of that. Jon Moxley, not only does he show up at Double or Nothing, but the big news today, he has officially signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling as well, and he'll be challenging Juice Robinson on June 5th in the night that they have the finals of the Battle of the Super Juniors tournament. He'll be challenging Juice Robinson for the United States Championship. These two have a little bit of history. Juice Robinson and Dean Ambrose took some exception to each other back in their NXT and Florida Championship Wrestling days. So they're going to get the ring tied up. I expect him to walk out the new IWGP United States Champion. I can't imagine AEW promoting him this hard if he was going to go out to Juice Robinson and lose right away. It's almost like a reverse Pac situation. So we'll have to wait and see, but I suspect that he will defeat Juice Robinson for that U.S. Championship, and we still have to wait and see what happens with Chris Jericho, who's going to challenge Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP World Championship. Now, he's probably on pace to become the first AEW champion with his win over Omega, and now he's going to go on to face Hangman Page, who I don't think is ready for the World Championship, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I suspect Jericho will be the AEW World Champion. Will he be IWGP Champion as well? We'll have to wait and see. Coming out of All Elite Wrestling's Double or Nothing, the AAA Tag Team Champions retained their titles. The Young Bucks kept their championship against the Lucha Brothers, but they're going to have one more match. They've had two. This will be the third. AAA Tag Team Championship rematch will take place in Mexico June 16th. And we'll have to see if the Lucha Brothers can finally wrestle those titles back away from the Young Bucks. I suspect they will, and they'll probably keep those belts down in Mexico, and All Elite Wrestling will probably create their own Tag Team Championship. I know SoCal Uncensored already is interested, as are the Best Friends and many other teams already in All Elite Wrestling, so we'll have to keep our eye out and see how that plays out. I know at the show, at Double or Nothing, they announced that All Out will take place in August, at the end of August, and we found out the very next day that StarCast 3 will take place the same weekend. It's amazing. They keep saying how Conrad Thompson doesn't have a paid position with All Elite Wrestling, but man, he sure does partner up with them for every one of their shows, so we'll have to wait and see. No talents have been announced yet, but it is going to be in Chicago, and there have been graphics all over the internet, obviously fan-driven, with CM Punk being in the graphic. I would not be surprised if he showed up at StarCast. Less likely that I'll see him show up at All Out, but what a great way to get a pop from the crowd for your second major pay-per-view. Now, they do have other shows coming between then and now. They also have Fyter Fest that's coming up, and Fyter Fest, they've announced some of the matches, and it's really looking great. It's going to be Saturday, June 29th in Daytona Beach, Florida. Tickets will go on sale Wednesday at noon, and the matches, oh my goodness, they're going to have the Elite, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega take on Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and believe it or not, Pac, the guy who just turned his back on them for Double or Nothing, is coming back to wrestle in a 6-man tag team match with Phoenix and Pentagon to go against the Elite. Cody Rhodes is going to take on Darby Allin. Jon Moxley is going to debut for the company. So they've got a lot booked already for the show. It should be a great opportunity to see some new pairings, some new matchups. Never seen Pac in the ring with Kenny Omega myself. I mean, there may be something on YouTube. I haven't really looked for it, but I certainly haven't seen these 6 people in the ring all together. Should be very exciting. And then other news of the week, WWE superstars with contracts that are expiring. We know Rhino's about to leave. We also found out this week, courtesy of Twitter, Maria Kanellis posted she and Mike Kanellis, their contracts are coming due in 3 weeks. So we get to wait and see. Are they going to stay in WWE? Are they going to wow them with an incredible offer to stay on 205 Live where they are really helping that brand? Or do they take a walk And do they go to All Elite Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, places they've had better success? New Japan. Mike Kanellis was a big hit over in New Japan. Do they go there and seek out better fortunes? We'll have to wait and see. Potential WWE signing Reno Scum, who have debuted on Impact Wrestling now twice, Ring of Honor. They've toured all over the United States. They are a very good independent tag team, and they are teasing on their Twitter accounts that they are going to be signing with WWE this week. It'll be curious to see if that comes to fruition, but if it does, it's just one more team to help bolster the WWE tag team division. And last thing tonight, Jonathan Gresham, who, if you are not familiar with his work, he wrestles for Ring of Honor. He's an incredible talent, and he's very athletic, he can do all the high flying stuff. He also could do some power stuff. And the reality is, as incredible as he is, Ring of Honor has allowed his contract to lapse, and he's wrestling without a deal. So in all seriousness, if I was AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, I'd be swooping in on this guy to try to scoop him up and sign him. We have to wait and see if Ring of Honor makes a move real quickly, because right now, the free agent market in wrestling is hotter than probably it has ever been, and they really need to make sure that the talents that they do get under contract, they lock down for some long-term deals, because let's face it, at this point, it really is a war, not with WWE, but with each other. Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, if they ever come back, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, All Elite Wrestling, even smaller companies like MLW and AAW, those companies are starting to sign people to completely exclusive contracts. And so now, this is when wrestlers are going to have to get paid. For them to agree to lock themselves into one company by themselves, they're going to have to get paid and paid well. And that's great for the business, it's great for the talent, not so great for the fans, because that means ticket prices will go up, but let's face it, we're not the ones putting our lives on the line every night and trusting people to go out there and have a great match. So we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But Jonathan Gresham, free agent as of right now, WWE, somebody else ought to swoop in and snag him as soon as possible. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound effects we use in our shows. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, or arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us this evening. Make sure you're supporting indie wrestling. Go to the indie events tab on frowrestling.com, click on a show near you, get the details, and go check out some up close and personal action. Also, if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of pro wrestling. And make sure you go to my blog, In Fro's Corner, on frowrestling.com. My latest pieces, my latest one is my reaction to Double or Nothing and all the hoopla about AEW. Check it out today. We are on a drive to 2,500 subscribers. We're sitting at 2,250. We need your help. Help share us with your friends, your family members, anybody you know who loves wrestling. Let's get to 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate your interaction. Make sure you send us some questions, and we'll see you in our next episode. Take care.